Hi, so Graham here from Hunters with Pauline Carrera Silva, head of our lettings, and we're looking at what to be concerned about or aware about when the current bill, the Renters Reform Act, makes its way through session and becomes law. Now, one of the real headline grabbers is that landlords will no longer be able to evict their tenants in a no-fault eviction scenario. Now, this is the one that's caught much of the imagination and also part of the concern for landlords. So, Pauline, no fault eviction, does that mean a landlord, once they've got a tenant in, will no longer be able to recover that house?
No, they will be able to recover their property under certain circumstances.
Uh-huh.
So, for instance, if the tenant is in serious rent arrears,
Right.
if they need to retrieve the property back as a family home or
Uh-huh.
for a member of their family,
Okay.
they will be able to still do so. I believe there are 18 clauses in the Scottish one that will probably come into the English one.
Okay, so a landlord entering into a tenancy doesn't need to be concerned that the tenant now has complete control over when that tenancy is going to end.
No, they do have some control, but it is a little more limited than it has been previously for the English landlords.
And in practice, we've been renting houses under this environment in Scotland for the last 4 years. Have we ever had any problems in trying to get a landlord's access back to their own property?
No, we haven't. As you say, we've had limited experience with it because we've had good tenants, but we haven't had any problems.
Okay, so the landlord can still get access back to their property. It's just that there are certain protocols have to be followed. What about the tenant? What's in it for the tenant?
The tenant has the reassurance that if they have a problem in their property, that they can approach their landlord now and ask for maintenance repairs to be done. So a leaking roof where a tenant with a bad landlord may have been wary of asking for the repairs to be done, now should feel fully assured that they can go ahead, ask for this repair to be done, and there won't be a retaliatory eviction.
Yeah, and when we speak to tenants who have been given what we would call a Section 21 notice currently, very often they think it's because they asked for a repair and the landlord said, I'm not doing that and I want that tenant changed. Now, I don't think in practice that happens with managed stock by agents, but if it was a landlord operating on their own, that fear could have been legitimate for some tenants.
I think it probably was for some tenants. You don't tend to find good landlords going through agents. So it's one of those where it's something that we've not particularly experienced, but
Okay.
it was a real concern for some tenants.
So if we add that up, then this in this bill, what it says is that you can't do a no-fault eviction, but actually under fair and reasonable terms, you can still get your property back. For the tenant, they can ask for repairs to be done on their house in good faith without worrying, oh, what are the repercussions? Though I have to say, the vast majority of our landlords, they do look after their houses. Is there anything else the landlord should be concerned about with restriction on this? What about the fact that we don't know how long the tenant's now going to be in the house for?
Again, our experience in Scotland has been that there hasn't been any difference. So tenants still have the same things. They still have the cost of moving. They still want to be able to stay and settle in a property.
Uh-huh.
So they're not looking to move as quickly as we think they're going to. Nobody is property hopping in Scotland.
So, because what we've got currently is a landlord can set a 6-month or a 12-month fixed tenancy agreement, which gives the landlord a bit of a surety, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So we won't have fixed terms anymore. So
That
we
goes.
we won't have a 6-month or a 12-month fixed
And in
term.
Scotland, a tenant can give 28 days notice.
Yes.
But your point is that it so rarely happens because a tenant's so involved in that property. So never really a big impact. So looking at the English and Scottish system, we've been running side by side from these offices over the last 4 years. How would you define the difference in practical terms between the two?
There isn't much there in terms of the actual notice and the fixed terms. Obviously, they are different. And in Scotland, you're not allowed to take a holding deposit, which we do in England. But other than that, no, people still like to stay in their home and they are looking to stay at least 18 months, 2 years in a good property. They are not looking to move.
All right, thanks, Pauline. So I think the point about that, we're looking at can you get your property back under a no eviction or a no fault eviction in a legislative environment? Yes, you can. A tenant, do you have a better and a higher assurity of staying in your tenancy and asking for little jobs to be done? Yeah, but actually, landlords are usually very, very good that way anyway. And at the end of the 6 and the 12-month assured tenancy agreements hasn't led to a material difference from what we've seen in the Scottish system. So in the next video, we're going to be looking at some of the other sort of headline stories about the fact that I've got to accept anybody who applies in my property. I have no right to refuse anyone, and I lose control on selecting who's going to reside in my tenancy.